कागा सप्तन खाइयो चुन चुन खाइयो मास, दो नैना मत खाइयो मोहे पिया मिलन की आस. He said, what does this mean?
Oh my God.
Being in Punjab, shooting Chamkila, for me has been the process of earthing, really. Like I touched the ground, I touched dharti. Rahman doing your film, Roshan, I mean, you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know whether you'll believe this.
Of course I will.
John Abraham was supposed to act. This guy connected me to Sunny Deol. He didn't know where I was coming from. He barely knew my name. He said, हाँ आइए
आइए बैठिए
आइए. And I thought ये तो बड़ा decent आदमी है यार.
बहुत sweet
ये
है.
कब मारेगा चिल्लाएगा. मैं दिल्ली का लौंडा हूँ. मैंने बहुत बड़ा बड़ा देखा है सर. अभी मैं झुकने वाला नहीं हूँ.
मेरे चेहरे पे जो इतनी बड़ी मुस्कुराहट है वो तभी ऐसी मुस्कुराहट आती है जब आप पुराने दोस्तों के साथ होते हैं या ऐसे लोगों के साथ होते हैं जिनको आप शायद जिंदगी के किसी एक पॉइंट पर मिले होते हैं कॉलेज के दिनों में विच इज अ टाइम व्हेन यू रियली कम अक्रॉस पीपल हु आर budding talent, and then suddenly you see them explode and you see what they have managed to do, and finally in their journey you're always standing on the side looking at their work, you know, beaming from year to year, learning a lot. और ऐसा ही एक इंसान मेरे बगल में है, इम्तियाज़ अली. I think the perfect example of a stumbler, because stumble is about creative curiosity. Stumble is about a world where creators can come together, can collaborate, will tell us about their stumbles of both kinds. Things they've stumbled across, inspiration, ideas, and of course, some stumbles in our own lives which perhaps have made us into what we are today. So thank you, Imtiaz, for being here with me.
Always a pleasure, sir. And all of the things that you were saying also stand from me to you, because when I see you doing so well and I hear such good things about you that sometimes I have to like, not grin in front of other people, etc. But it's a pleasure to have had you around for as long as I remember. From college first year, you've been there, you've been looming, you've been around, you've been supportive. And I hope that in this interview, in this conversation, I can also talk about the times when you supported initially in Ibtida.
Oh.
So there's a lot to talk.
नहीं बिल्कुल. और you know, I'm genuinely saying that हमारे कॉलेज, हिंदू कॉलेज में there were 90% of the people in the hostel had only one goal, IAS, right? और बचे हुए जो एक आध और लोग होते थे वो होते थे हम जैसे, who really, I guess, didn't even know what they wanted to do. Imtiaz, when you came to college, were you sure of what you wanted to do?
Not at all. At that time, I was escaping engineering because all my friends were physics, chemistry, maths. So I'm a PCM student while in college.
I'm a PCB student.
Oh, yeah. So then I somehow, I didn't want to go in for engineering. All my friends are engineers. So then I had this thing of doing theatre, media, art, something of that sort, but I didn't know exactly what. So I used to, tell my parents that I want to do literature because I'll become a journalist maybe. Then I'd heard about Jamia, I'd heard about other institutes of what's it called? Media arts.
Mass communication.
Mass communications. So I thought maybe this is a respectable thing to say. But what I really wanted to do was, I don't know what,
नहीं पता था.
हाँ, पता नहीं था ये कि अंग्रेजी में पढ़ेंगे and उसमें ज़्यादा पढ़ना नहीं पड़ेगा because अंग्रेजी कितना पढ़ सकते हैं. फिर उसके बाद फिर आप थिएटर करोगे कुछ वैसे. Because I was getting into theatre very seriously around that time. While in school also. So I thought maybe this will be a good chance for me to do theatre. So ये सब सोचते हुए मैं आ गया था यार हिंदू, और फिर वहाँ पर आप मिले. And every time I said, anyone said to me, which course are you in? And I said English literature. And what do you want to do? I don't know, maybe media arts, something like that. अच्छा, रोशन अब्बास. ये इस बैच का रोशन अब्बास है. So that's what I heard from everybody, from all of these guys, PK, Bussi, all these guys like, sir, Roshan Abbas se mile ho, Roshan Abbas se mile ho. I was like, who is this Roshan Abbas that I'm supposed to be like? So then I finally met you. And I remember that you were outside this canteen.
Right.
And I was getting out of the hostel and yeah, Roshan Abbas. You were wearing a jacket, leather jacket, black and aisa kuch. And then you were talking to some very pretty looking girls. Like, जाओ जाके उसका पैर छुओ. So like I had, sir, पैर छो. So I touched his feet. फिर ये समझ गया कि रैगिंग हो रहा है. बोला जीते रहो.
Oh my God! What
So that's how I met you for the first time.
It was crazy. What times, you know? And मुझे याद है कि तुमने फॉर्मलाइज कर दिया स्ट्रीट थिएटर को, और बिफोर यू हमने स्ट्रीट थिएटर करा था बिकॉज मंडल के टाइम पे there was no option.
Right.
And we had just seen one जन्नाट्य मंच का प्ले. सफदर साहब आए थे प्ले के साथ, और मुझे तो उसका गाना तक याद है कि वो कहीं एक जगह पर एक राजा था you know how what used to happen, और मैं क्या करूं राम मोरे सर में दर्द है, वो सब चल रहा है. और वो करते करते पीके, शांतनु, and these are people you know who were all my batchmates and are all doing so well. Gautam Sinha, who's now running one mega corporation on education somewhere. I mean, he was in New York. Mohit Mishra, you know, my goodness, Tushar Dhawan Singh. क्या log, and all of these people doing street theatre, which became a mode of protest for us. Was Ibtida in that same form when you formalized it and then made it into an actual institution?
So if you remember, you are the one actually, Roshan, that suggested the first play for Ibtida. When I was going to do a play, and you said there is a play called Jati Hi Pucho Sadhu Ki, right? So I didn't know about Vijay Tendulkar that time. We said, check this play out. So I read it in Hindi and I thought, ye bada acha play, we should do this. So I was directing, also acting in it. And there were times when, you know, we played it out, some rehearsals for you also to check out and, you know, give comment, etc. in the initial days. So this had happened. So yeah, I think in the beginning, Ibtida was a proscenium theatre group.
Exactly, yeah.
So we started off with Jati Pucho Sadhu Ki. Next year we did a Holi, which became quite successful because we did many shows of it, etc. And so on and so forth. But then I think also in the second year, because also if you remember, during your time as well, there used to be street theatre entered the college fest circuit.
Yes.
So there used to be competitions of that. And then in some of your plays, I used to be there. And we used to go to KM and Miranda and perform. And all booing ho gaya tha, booing.
And you know, it was, I still feel they just didn't understand. Ajayab Ghar tha play ka naam. Right?
So the moment we started singing, they started booing.
You know why they started booing? Why? I remember now, and this is where you suddenly realize कि dialogue की अहमियत क्या होती है. जो कैरेक्टर गौतम प्ले कर रहा था, जो बैठा हुआ है as the old man on the bench, right? And a drug dealer approaches him, and a drug dealer is in the park selling drugs to people, and he suddenly sees this old man sitting and comes up to him, and which was something I had taken from Edward Albee's Zoo story, because वो दो लोग जो बेंच पे बैठते हैं, और वहां पर वो आके उसको थोड़ी सी उंगली कर रहा होता है, कहता है तो आप करते क्या हैं? तो कहता है कि यू नो आई एम वर्किंग इन द गवर्नमेंट थिंग. अच्छा, आप एवरेज इंडियन मिडिल क्लास हैं, राइट? सो व्हेन ही सेज दिस लाइन, ही टर्न्स एंड सेज, सॉरी, पहले वो कहता है कि आप काम करते हैं, देन ही सेज कि आपके बच्चे हैं, सेज हाँ लड़की है, सेज लेकिन आप बेटा चाहते थे, एंड ही सेज हाँ, तो ही सेज यानी कि आप एक एवरेज इंडियन मिडिल क्लास मैन हैं. अब हम बहुत बड़ी चीज कहना चाह रहे थे, गर्ल्स कॉलेज में हमने बोल दिया कि आप बेटा चाहते थे, सर वहां पे हमारा प्ले खत्म हो गया. हम और आप उसके बाद जितना चिल्लाए लेकिन हमें जो बू किया गया, like and I was like, guys, this is a really wonderful play. To all those people, आप लोग आर्ट की कदर नहीं करते. Sorry यार, but what a memory, man. What a time that was.
Amazing. After that, nothing worked. After that, they were booing down everything.
Nothing worked. I mean, it was crazy. I'm going to suddenly rewind because अगर हम यहाँ पे अटक जाएंगे तो पूरी पुरानी जीन्स और गिटार हो जाएगा, और मतलब मोहल्ले की छत और वही पूरी बातें होने लगेंगी. I want to go back to when was the first time that you felt creative?
Yeah, so I was a telltale right in the early days. Matlab, most of the stuff started because I was not really, you know, there was a significant change in my life in the 9th standard because I flunked.
Correct.
Okay, so after that I became good at everything. Before that I was bad at everything. I was that student who used to sit in class and nod and be silent, but then nothing used to get into my brain. ये पता नहीं क्यों होता था, but I was also a telltale because I used to tell everybody in my colony that I'm in the school team or class team in school, and the same story I would say to my school guys that I'm the Sunil Gavaskar of my colony team. So I think that is where there was creativity. Okay. I feel that I used to
making up those stories.
Making up those stories, and not only that, having a behavior consistent to those stories, and also somehow keeping that story alive within my peer groups here and there. I feel that was the kind of drama and staging and background work and so on and so forth that I used to start off doing. And then after the 9th standard, I started doing plays and so on and so forth. That is one thing that I can remember. The other thing was that I used to watch these snatches of films in my relative cinema theaters. And those things in that time we used to always kind of narrate to each other. So I saw a part and I go and tell my friends, I saw this and this is what Amitabh Bachchan did and this is what Rekha did, and then Amjad Khan came and so on and so forth.
This is Muqaddar ka Sikandar.
Yes, no. this is, yeah, it could have been, but this is actually Mr. Natwarlal.
Arre, boss.
Kya baat hai. Mr. Natwarlal. Yeah. So films like that. So I had the chance, because all the gatekeepers knew me. I used to go wearing half pant and stand somewhere and watch 15-20 minutes and then come out. And then I used to tell my Neeraj bhaiya and this bhaiya and that girl that पता है क्या होता है, विक्रम होता है, विक्रम का ऐसा वी होता है, उसको टॉर्चर करने के लिए उसका पीठ में उसका निशान बना देता है, and so on and so forth. So that was storytelling.
Absolutely.
Then I feel the other thing then that happened is that I did one particular play which I also directed, and that's the first play that my dad saw. And I think I was already in Hindu, and in the summer vacations I directed this back in Jamshedpur.
Acha.
And this was also written by me, maybe, I'm not sure. So after that I saw this look on my dad's face. My dad thought ये तो अच्छा student है अब, so ये तो IAS भी बन सकता है, and he can do all of those things that, you know, all parents used to aspire those days. But he had that sad look on his face. I remember distinctly. After the play got over, you've been in that situation so many times when you get out and then your folks are there, and how did you like it, and people coming and saying, beta, next time you have to do a better play, or that it was good, or whatever shit. And everybody was meeting and congratulating me. They were saying good and bad things. My dad was standing on the background, and he had this distinctly sad, wistful look on his face. It's almost as though ये तो गया,
ठाकुर तो गए,
ठाकुर तो गए. That's exactly what happened. I said, I can't forget that. And then later on I realized that he understood, although he tried even later to tell me that you can still do creative work and write poetry and so on and so forth, even if you are in the administrative services, etc. But it didn't really, then ultimately he kind of saw that I came here. He knew that I'll follow that, because he must have seen something in that work. So that's a very distinct part of my career or whatever, I think.
No, absolutely, and I think it's such a formative thing. And मैंने दो और चीजें पढ़ी. एक तो ये था कि people used to keep blaming the fact that you had one uncle who was, you know, not in India, पर जिनकी फिल्मों से बहुत कुछ there was something he used to do with the media, right, on your mother's side.
Yeah. Khalid Ammu.
Khalid, हाँ.
So theater and singing and all of that, and yeah, so they thought that उसकी रूह कहाँ से आ गई तुम्हारे अंदर type.
तो एक ये होता है. उस जमाने में who would you say were your, तुम्हारे आसपास जो थे वो कौन लोग थे? Who were your supporters? होता है ना, एक शुरू हो जाता है उस टाइम में कि तू कर लेगा. Was there anybody on your side strongly?
My mother, who's actually never said anything good about me otherwise. Like in our family, we don't express love like "beta, tu to bahut acha hai" and all that. We don't say. But she somehow always made me and my other two brothers feel very special. You know, it's like she to other people. So I think she was a very different kind of a support system for all three of us, for me. And we didn't realize that. I didn't realize that. I feel that she's always like given a lot of elevated positioning to us, to me. So that, and of course, I think my parents are the entire reason for me achieving anything in my life. I feel,
really?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, a lot. And apart from that, some teachers, some English teachers who are always so lovely. You know, Miss Deepa Sengupta, who is in Jamshedpur, and I'm in touch with her even now. She used to read. I used to write poems here. I think the first thing I ever did, which was creative, sort of called, is write poetry in English. Right?
Small. Do you remember anything that you wrote then?
There was, there was something that I wrote. I don't remember the lines really, but एक poem थी जिसमें ना हम लोग, when I was leaving my school, I'd written that it's like a piece of nostalgia piece. Poetry, वो था. Then there was something called the mint, which was just 4 lines in which, like, how love, I'd compared love to mint, like how it takes away all your taste, and you can't taste anything after that, you know. And so this teacher used to read all that, Deepa Sengupta, and she used to give an analysis of this. And later she told me that I used to read because I used to think that you write so well. And so teachers like that, I think teachers have supported me a lot. I've always had this relationship with some people that they ended up doing much better for me than they thought that they would, because their intention necessarily wasn't so good, but somehow. So there were a lot of people like that in my life, who did not meet me as friends, but they ended up doing something wonderful in my life. So I've had the support of those people a lot, Roshan. And this is controversial, so I can't take those names right now because some of those names are also known. But I think I've always had that. And it certainly struck me that while in school also, some teachers who don't want really to do good to you necessarily, but end up doing wonderful for you.
But how? Like, I mean, for example?
This teacher, she made me the class monitor because she thought that I'm the naughtiest guy in class. That experience of being the class beadle or monitor for a year just changed me, I feel that was the first time I had to actually deal with people and guide them or lead them in some way and talk to them. And it started this whole thing inside me, which I think manifested in a very good way. However, the reason for her to have made me monitor was not because she loved me, but because she thought that ये अच्छा है, मतलब वो जैसे शोले में किया था ना कि 2 गुंडों को पकड़ के भेजो गब्बर के पीछे. So that concept. So sometimes what has happened is that people don't pay you money, and then it's like, how unfair. They made you work so much, but they didn't pay you money. You needed money so badly in such early phases of your life, etc., etc. But the fact is that how much ever money there was would have been spent, but they created a situation where I could do so much work, even if it was exploitative. That made me do those hours and learn that work and get to some place where I could do better work, maybe. So I think a lot of people like that have supported me.
पर ये नजरिया है, और शायद ये नजरिया, do you feel that this is now in hindsight that you feel this? At that moment you must have been feeling like
one or two times I did feel
मुझे पता है, इसलिए मैं बोल नहीं रहा, मुझे पता है.
One or two times I felt while it was happening also sometimes I felt one or two times.
Okay.
Yeah. And now I can. Now I'm not so scared of failure as a result. Or when somebody doesn't pay me and all, I pretend I'm very pissed. But I know that maybe something better can happen out of this because maybe it is providing something. वो तो retrospect में पता चलेगा. But even while it was happening, I knew that this chance that I'm getting right now, because other people are lazy, but the fact that I'm getting to do this work will manifest in some way, that I knew.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you get something to do which is enhancing you creatively, it's not only the monetary value that you need to look at. मुझे बहुत लोग when you हम लोग जब कॉलेज वगैरह जाते हैं ना, सर what is the opening salary, आपने किस पे, ऐसे बेटा मैं तो एक स्टूडियो से दूसरे स्टूडियो कूद रहा होता था कि अपॉर्चुनिटी है, पैसे बाद में पूछता था, 200 मिल रहा है दे दो भाई, वॉइस ओवर करना है, स्क्रिप्ट लिखनी है, यहाँ जाना है वहाँ जाना है. बट it was the experience that was honing you constantly as well, right?
Yeah, because my first salary, Roshan, was 1,500 back in ZTV, where I was like a tape boy, so to speak, celebrated. I could write properly on the tape and label it and take from one studio to the other. 1,500 की सैलरी थी, जो उस वक्त भी कम थी. ऐसा नहीं कि वक्त इतना बदल गया है. और ये भी होता था कि मुझे 3 महीने मिली ही नहीं. I don't know. I don't think I got that salary also. So I don't know how I survived, but the point is that the fact that I got to do so many things entitled me to get the next job in Crest Communication. There also I didn't get my full payment, and then that was another thing. But again, it put me into a position where I could write for like so many hours every day. And then finally, in one of those things, it's also very funny. I used to write on an average, in a realistic term, maybe 10 to 12 hours every day, maybe 16 hours on some days, just writing. And for a year and a half, none of it saw the light of day. Yeah. And उसमें से कुछ चीज़ें बनी, कुछ चीज़ें बनी भी नहीं, कुछ शूट हुआ फिर रह गया. Now, where is all that? I feel that gets into your blood then. Then it gets into you. And then you write, and so nothing that you ever do is a loss in the creative field.
Absolutely.
Nothing that you ever do.
यही मैं बहुत बार लोगों से कहता रहता हूँ, क्योंकि I don't know whether it's a truth that you've also come across, but I feel that हमारे पास जरिए कम थे, एफर्ट ज़्यादा था. आज मुझे लगता है जरिया ज़्यादा है, एफर्ट कुछ कम लगता है. And I'm just saying because very often I feel people very easily get distracted, नहीं करना ये है वगैरह, और मुझे लगता है कि क्या है? Do you think that that's happened to some degree? Is there distraction, too much distraction? आग कहीं पर जो है वो इतनी जगह पे आग लगा रहे हो कि कहीं पर जो है वो ज्वाला नहीं बन रही है. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's small fires you're lighting, but where's that big bloody inferno?
I feel that it is more difficult for the generation today because of the presence of so many things, because it takes away a lot of time in trying to decide, etc. The other thing also, Roshan, I feel is that looking at it from the elders' point of view, like people our age who've been around for a while, and when we see young people, I feel that one thing, I feel they say, no, this is not me, this is not my scene, I wouldn't like to do this. Maybe I'll find something else to do. We never thought like this. We were, पैसे मिल रहे हैं, कर दो, जो भी है, कुछ भी है. There was no thing of this is not me, this is not my style. आपको मतलब मुझे तो जो बोला जाता मैं कर देता. In terms of obviously in the realm of
the canvas that we were wanting to get
involved in. हाँ,
तूने पुरुष क्षेत्र किया, मतलब इम्तिहान किया at that point in time, daily soap भी, मतलब imagine the person who everyone now reveres and is talking about cinema and whatever. I remember being on the sets of Purukshetra with you.
Yeah,
I
exactly. You were a guest there in Imtihan, sure, and anything and everything that we could do, we did. However, there is some merit in when these guys come and say that we'd like to find out what we really want to do. The time has changed. The nation has changed. We have also become perhaps a bit more affluent. There's more money. I don't know. I just feel it in this time. When people can afford to find out what exactly they can do best, they are taking that choice now, Roshan. People like you and me, we might have this initial reaction of grudging that साले जो मिल रहा है करो, what I am वो तुम्हें 20 साल बाद पता चलेगा. But maybe they are right, we didn't have a choice like this. Maybe we were lucky that we didn't have a choice like this, is what I feel.
Wow, that's an amazing perspective. I'm sure you won over a lot of young people who are still stumbling across what they want to do in life. और देखो, मैं कभी-कभार हमको लगता है, शाहरुख एक चीज़ बोलता है बहुत बार कि कहना बड़ा आसान होता है. 20-25 साल on the other side हम कहते हैं कि पैशन के लिए करो, पैसे के लिए मत करो, do this वगैरह. But there are so many other things that lead you to where life finally takes you. We'll find out more after a very short break. Stay with us. We're still stumbling with Imtiaz Ali. Thank you for listening to Stumble. Why don't you join our tribe of community builders, creators, and culture shapers? If you find this interesting, all you need to do is go and subscribe to stumble.community on Instagram. हम लोग यहाँ पर मटिया रहे हैं इम्तियाज अली के साथ. ये बोला जाता है हिंदू कॉलेज में. We're still stumbling, but really, Imtiaz, everything that you said, it's such nostalgia. It's taking me back to college. जमशेदपुर हम लोग ने कुछ बात करी थोड़ी बहुत लोग जब दिल्ली में पढ़ते हैं, इमीडिएटली आफ्टर दैट उनको लगता है कि फिल्म का दायरा मैस कम्युनिकेशन MCRC दिल्ली है, फिर वो देयर वाज दैट मीडिया इंस्टीट्यूट इन JNU. ये दो चीज़ें दिखती थी. एंड पता नहीं क्यों पुणे फिल्म इंस्टीट्यूट और जेवियर्स वगैरह की तो बाद में हम लोग की बात पता लगी थी, बहुत ही दूर लगते थे. Honestly, I didn't even think of them as an option at that time.
Yeah.
What made you think of XIC?
I thought of Bombay for other reasons as well.
अच्छा, प्यार इश्क मोहब्बत.
So मैंने सोचा कि बॉम्बे का कोई सीन बनाया जाए.
अच्छा.
एंड देन फिर रिसर्च किया और पता चला कि यहाँ पे XIC नाम का कुछ है. एंड देन आई थॉट दैट आई विल डू द कोर्स ओवर हियर व्हिच विल एक्चुअली गेट मी टू बॉम्बे for some other reason.
Right.
Actually, that was just an excuse.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I don't want to say it in great detail because it might mislead people and make them do the wrong thing, which parents wouldn't want their children to do. But all of us have done things like that in our lives. तो इस वजह से मैं आया. Actually, even if I say it, it's okay.
बोल सकते हो क्या है?
क्या sir? I followed my girlfriend.
Correct.
To Bombay. Okay. So that was the reason for me to come to Bombay.
एक थे शाहरुख खान, एक आप. ये दो है, इनकी कहानियां पता है मुझे.
So I came here, and but what happened is that I got admitted over here, but she was called back to Jamshedpur as a result of the fact that I was here, or maybe not, something like that. So she went away. However, I was here, and then I was in Bombay, and I was doing XIC. I was doing advertising and marketing because I thought that I'll do this and get a job. So basically, that was the reason for me to come to XIC.
Right. And when you were here, you know, there are lots of things which people tell me, आजकल आप कुछ सीखना चाहते हैं, आप ऑनलाइन जाके चीजें सीख सकते हैं. हमारे ज़माने में वो रिसोर्सेज शायद नहीं थे. What has teaching in creativity, has it helped you? Did it guide you? Was it a deterrent?
It wasn't a deterrent, but then I did the course in advertising and marketing. And here I am making movies. So it was not a direct correlation at all. But I'm glad that I did the course in advertising and marketing because it somehow like made me get in touch with this concept of target audience. Like क्या बना रहे हो, किसके लिए बना रहे हो, कौन सुन रहा है, and what you can do to reach it further and so on and so forth. So I'm glad I did advertising. And then movie making. I don't know. I've not really studied movie making ever, so I don't know whether it makes a positive impact. My daughter has, and she just finished her undergraduation, Ida. So it was a very nice course for her. But yeah, I don't know क्या पढ़ाई से क्या हम सीखेंगे.
नहीं, मैं सिर्फ सोच रहा था कि वहाँ पर अगर कोई थ्रेड उस तरीके से निकलता है. बॉम्बे और दिल्ली, राइट? एक जमशेदपुर है जो मुझे लखनऊ जैसी याद दिलाता है.
जी हाँ.
राइट. फिर आप आते हैं दिल्ली, हम दोनों की कॉमन जगह है. फिर हम दोनों बॉम्बे एक तरीके से आए. हाउ डू यू डिफरेंशिएट दिल्ली एंड बॉम्बे एज सिटीज? इफ समबडी आस्क्ड यू टू डिस्क्राइब बोथ ऑफ देम.
Okay, there is this. I just thought of this moment when I was sitting in Bombay.
Please.
I was sitting in Bombay on Marine Drive and seeing this big city in front of me. And then, for the first time in my life, I felt thankful to Delhi. Because I felt that Bombay can't intimidate me by showing me big. Because I am from bloody Delhi. मैं दिल्ली का लौंडा हूँ. मैंने बहुत बड़ा बड़ा देखा है सर. अभी मैं झुकने वाला नहीं हूँ बॉम्बे के सामने. I felt that thing that I'm not. It's not the same as I felt coming to Delhi from Jamshedpur. That I'm from a small town. Now I've come to a big city, and here there are people wearing different clothes, talking in different accents, and there are big things over here. I've never seen such big things. So I think Delhi gave me that thing that I'm coming from a big city, so I'm not intimidated. The thing about Bombay and Delhi that are different is that Bombay, I hated Delhi while I was there. It's a very hostile city. The hostility hits you on the face. But then when you leave it, you miss it. At least I did. And there's like, I talk about it with so much love and affection, and so do you. But then there were times when both of us have had really tough times in that college, in that hostel. क्या हुआ है? उस वक्त बहुत ख़राब लगता था. And it's a very uncomfortable city to live, Delhi, because in terms of public transport then now it has improved actually, but then it was so difficult to go to Central Secretariat, change the bus, and then go somewhere else for your theatre rehearsals. You've done it, I've done it. Then you had a bike, and then so that helped, so on and so forth. But between Bombay and Delhi, I feel that Delhi, the negative is that people are always like looking at what you're doing, and then there's a lot of people's thing that you do. Bombay is very Bombay is very like calm se calm, and nobody comes in your way. It's very work oriented. I feel, Roshan, that I'm still in hostel. While staying in Bombay, and I also live alone, and I have a very small infrastructure by which I live. I feel that Bombay is hostel, Delhi is home.
Wow.
Because Bombay mein na, there is no lifestyle. I feel. Now, of course, different people have different perspective. You come here for work, you do the work, and you live the life, and you eat the sandwich that you can get, but do the work, and that's why you're here. In Delhi, you can have a lifestyle. ये मैं हूँ, ये मेरा घर है, ये मेरी गर्लफ्रेंड है, ये मेरा बच्चा है, और ये मेरी शाम है, एंड मैं यहाँ जाता हूँ वॉक करने के लिए, मैं ये खाना खाता हूँ, इसका जायका कैसे, ये मेरी बार है.
How many times did you go and first do पहले आपको 10 मिनट बार के बारे में सुना होता है, पता है 30 साल 30 और हाँ जी वेरी गुड 30 इयर्स गले में तो जाने वाली वही है, की फर्क पैदा है यार.
Yeah, so I think of it like that.
And you still go back to Jamshedpur?
I go to Jamshedpur all the time. I was there recently, not for such a great cause though. Oh, no. But I go back to Jamshedpur. I feel that I'm a Jamshedpur kid at the heart of it. And I think, you know, Roshan, I have a very strong belief. It's that people like you and me, who've had this journey from a small town to a large town to a very different large town, metropolitan, have a bigger story. You know, we can relate to greater numbers of people. We can talk, also communicate to different numbers of people. And people that have, you know, like our children that are born in a big city, and, you know, then why do you go to a small city, you know? We'll find it tough to actually, you know, do the circle that we've done quite naturally.
Earlier when you were talking about, you know, how money and the affluence today for people, right? You were talking about this generation has more options, more affluence and whatever. They've not seen what we have seen. जावेद साहब का एक शेर था ना कि गिन गिन के सिक्के हाथ मेरा खुरदुरा हुआ, जाती रही लम्स की नमी बुरा हुआ. You know that I got so much after counting money that I lost all feeling in my hand.
Good.
I was doing monsoon wedding last year with Meera ji, and I was in multiple auditoriums. और एक दिन ब्रेक मिली, मैंने एक चीज़ को रोल करके बनाया, ज़मीन पे लेट गया. You know, and there was this thing of, you know, I said, yaar, ye to hamari zindagi hai. These are the things. I don't think I've come so close to my muse as I did in those 3 months.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Because मैं बड़ा पाव भी खाने बाहर जा रहा था, क्योंकि पानी बरस रहा था और थोड़ी सी ब्रेक थी, और फिर मुझे एक वोकल लेसन मिल रहा था जहाँ पर मैं नहीं गा पा रहा हूँ at that range, and I'm trying out every possible thing in the world. एक dingy स्टूडियो में 2 फ्लोर ऊपर जाके एक कीबोर्ड पर एक चीज़ प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं. I think somehow all of these experiences, अभी भी लखनऊ जाना, मैं अभी दुबई के दोस्त के साथ लखनऊ गया, एंड उनको खाने का बहुत शौक है, तो हमने एक लखनऊ का फूड टूर करा, जहाँ पर मैंने वो चीज़ें खाई जो अब न्यू लखनऊ में बन गई है. सर ये किंग चाट है जहाँ पर 10 किस्म का पानी. अच्छा, हमारे सामने तो 1 किस्म का गोलगप्पा होता था, बट अब वो मॉडर्न हो गया है, उसमें 9 वैरायटीज आ गई हैं. You know, you know, and wo jo, and some of you will never eat a kebab after this, but if you go to eat tunde and you see what the man is doing with his hands,
but Roshan, even if they wear the bloody glove, they still do the same things, na?
You know, and you're looking at saying, यार क्या है, पर you know, पता नहीं क्यों मुझे लगता है कि उसके अंदर एक
जायका होता है. Come on. Like my aunt used to say, कलकत्ता में हम लोग गोलगप्पा खाने जाते थे, तो ऐसे कान से भी निकाल के मिला दो भैया, कान से भी निकाल, उसका भी अच्छा जायका होता है.
It's crazy, you know, and I mean, it's a completely different podcast on saying why Indian food is so spicy, because I think because of the hygienic value of the way our food was made, it was made spicy, so you add levels of tolerance. Actually,
yeah, maybe, yeah. Oh, great.
तो ये
awesome.
क्रिस अशोक ने बताया था एक किताब में किसी पॉइंट पे. अच्छा भाई, ये बातें तो चलती रहेंगी. मुझे मैंने सोचा ना था कि मैं इतनी जल्दी यहाँ तक आ जाऊंगा, लेकिन सोचा ना था. You won't believe, I was in Delhi in those days. And a person I knew who was one Rajput family from Lucknow type के जो थे, उनके कोई रिलेटिव थे, उनके कोई और रिलेटिव थे जो कोई MP थे, और हम लोग दिल्ली में वो MP वाले क्वार्टर्स में कहीं पर हैं, और किसी ने बोला कि यार यहाँ पर ना पंजाब के जो एक MP हैं, उनके सोनसो का एक नेफ्यू है अभय देओल, उसकी एक फिल्म होने वाली है, सोचा ना था. और मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि whatever, और that's when I heard your name about the movie the first time. How did that happen? कितने पापड़ बेलने पड़े थे? Because बहुत बेलने पड़े थे ना.
Actually, one thing led to the other. Yeah, I was always. I was directing television for many years.
Correct.
जब वो ख़त्म हो गया या जब वो चल ही रहा था तो I had this story. And then with that story, then I approached a friend of mine who's a producer now, Sanjay Rautre. He works in, he has a production house called Matchbox Films. So उसने बोला था कि if you ever have a film story, tell me. I told him. So he said, okay, whatever. And then finally he got me. I remember he took me to a guy who wanted to be a producer. वो लोग ना सुनार थे. Okay. So पैसे वाले थे तो उन्होंने कहा हाँ बड़ी अच्छी कहानी. अनुराग कश्यप was there with me to just buck up कि वाह वाह कितनी अच्छी कहानी, वाह 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 वाह. तो मेरे नरेशन में वो भी है, laughing at all the jokes in the script. सोचा वो सब हम लोग करते थे एक दूसरे के लिए. So ये सब हो रहा है. And then they said हाँ अच्छा है, बहुत अच्छी कहानी है. फिर after some time they turned around and said ये बहुत अच्छा है बट ना अगर शाहरुख खान करेगा ना तो बड़ा अच्छा रहेगा. I said यार अगर शाहरुख खान करेगा तो मैं आपके पास क्यों आऊँगा. Anyhow, so that didn't happen. But ultimately, this guy Sanjay Rautre connected me to Sunny Deol.
Correct.
And then Sunny Deol. So no, I had met Abhay, and Abhay wanted to do this film. And then, then Sunny said that he will produce it if it is Abhay Deol doing it, and then he has to like it and he has to approve it. Otherwise, this is not going to happen. So I was like, oh shit! Now this turn of events, this is an action hero, and now you're going to tell him a story in which there's like this very soft romantic drama in which वो तो हीरो को ही थप्पड़ पड़ता है उसमें. तो कहीं सनी मुझे फिजिकली ना असॉल्ट कर दे जब मैं उसको ये सारी कहानी सुनाऊँ कि आपके भाई को तो हम ऐसा करने वाले हैं. सो अब कैसे होगा, शिमला जाना पड़ेगा नरेट करने. आई वेंट टू शिमला टू मीट सनी. ही डिडंट नो वेयर आई वाज कमिंग फ्रॉम. ही बेयरली न्यू माय नेम. ही सेड हाँ हाँ आइए. सो द मोमेंट द डे दैट आई एम फ्री
बैठिए
आई. And I thought ये तो बड़ा डिसेंट आदमी है यार, ये कब मारेगा चिल्लाएगा. अभी तक तो इसने कुछ भी नहीं किया ऐसा. बहुत ही इसने कायदे से बात की और बहुत ही सॉफ्टली. एंड उसके बाद फिर बोला कि हाँ जैसे आज शूटिंग ख़त्म हो जाएगी, जब वक्त होगा ना तो वीकेंड. मगर वो मैं पहुंचा और वहाँ बारिश ऐसी शुरू हो गई कि वो शूटिंग ही बंद हो गई. एंड देन ही हैड नथिंग बेटर टू डू बट टू लिसन टू माई स्टोरी. एंड आई नरेटेड इट. एंड फिर इंटरवल हुआ. फिर इंटरवल के बाद उसके बाद आई रिमेंबर ही सेड एंड ही वाज देयर वाज नो एक्सप्रेशन. आई वाज टोल्ड दैट वो ना एक्सप्रेशन नहीं देता, वो ऐसे ही बस सुनता रहता है. सो देन मिस्टर देओल वाज आल्सो लाइक लिसनिंग एंड बट आई न्यू दैट ही इज़ विथ मी, लाइक ही इज़ फॉलोइंग द स्टोरी. उसके बाद ही सेड अच्छा बहुत टाइम हो गया है, शुड वी हैव लंच. तो आई सेड अभी तो थोड़ा ही बचा है, मतलब 15-20 मिनट. ठीक है, नहीं पिक्चर में कर रहा हूँ पिक्चर में कर रहा हूँ बट खाना खा लें बीच में. ऐसा हाँ मंगाओ
अब तो
मंगा लो जितना चाहिए. So that is how it happened. Yeah. He didn't ask me nothing. Whether I've done so many years of theatre, whether I've written for so many hours a day, whether I've done 7 years of television, whether I've directed any goddamn thing in this life, or written another story, nothing. He just heard the story. That's all he did. I don't know. It was such a grievous mistake. It could have been such a mistake. How did he know I'll direct? He didn't ask me whether I've ever done television. Nothing at all. It is just पुराने ज़माने के लोगों में ये होता था. I'm not that he's पुराने ज़माने का, but I'd heard about people.
The heritage and lineage.
The heritage is that वो देख रहे हैं, वो कहानी भी सुन रहे हैं और वो देख रहे हैं ये बंदा बना लेगा कि नहीं. एंड उन्होंने मुझे इतनी इज्जत से ये डायरेक्ट करवाया बिकॉज ही नेवर इंटरफियर्ड इन एनीथिंग. आई वॉज लाइक द डायरेक्टर. आई वुड मेक द फिल्म दैट आई वॉन्टेड टू मेक. ही हैड only 2 reservations. He said the music director and the cinematographer should have had done work before in some other films because you are a newcomer, just for the guarantee that these 2 things can be like tent poles that will be up here. बस इतनी सी बात थी. उनको तो मतलब लड़की कौन हीरोइन थी वो सेट में आकर के मिला यार आयशा से. लाइक immense support. Took 5 years to make though.
Why was that?
4 years to make. There were some problems because they were investing in other stuff and also there was financial and that kind of thing that was going on. And they were making very big films over there. So this was taking time. But there were so many things that this became my film school then. Because क्या हो रहा था कि cinematographer has to go and shoot something else. How long is he going to survive not doing anything else, right? So when the time came to color correct, and those days the color correction was happening on film.
Yeah.
Highly on
oh my
the
God,
analyzer.
I did the last possible film on film.
Yeah, you see. So there was no cinematographer then. So I had to go and learn the color correction on analysis on the analyzer, and then do it, and then that's the print that you see in the film.
Amazing.
So obviously I learned, and similarly even in production and every small thing, every aspect of filmmaking on the real world, I learned during Sochana Tha. There's no amount of money that I could have got which would be a compensation for this, and I'd be nothing or nowhere without this. So I feel that I've been supported like this all my life. Yeah.
No, but it's fantastic. And I want to ask you an important thing, which is that मैंने देखा कबीर is such a good friend. एक टीम बन जाती है, right? राइटर, लिरिसिस्ट, म्यूजिक डायरेक्टर वगैरह, और फिर ये साथ में चलने लगती हैं, which to me sometimes when I look at it from outside and I turn and say there must be some magic or some chemistry to this or some reason. And then I also feel कि यार you're limiting yourself from any other stumble, any other influence, anybody else. Tell me a little bit about forming this team, because इरशाद भाई हर जगह हर चीज़ में देखता हूँ. अभी मैं देख रहा था कुछ प्रोमोज, तो वो टीवी के लिए भी आपके लिए भी लिखा, जब आपने वेब बनाया है उसके लिए भी लिख रहे हैं. रहमान sir has been so close in everything that you have done, and he's such a difficult person. Not difficult person in terms of just इतनी चीज़ें कर रहे होते हैं. How do you get him to? How did you form this team, and how is this motley crew of your inglorious bastards? That's why. कैसे बनी?
Yeah, it just organically, I think. And जैसा इरशाद और मेरा ये हमेशा होता है ना कि he always says that if you get a better lyricist than me, then don't work with me.
Wow.
And I also have this feeling that if I get a better guy than him, then I won't work with him. But all the work that I've ever done has been through him. There's a guy called Subrat Sinha from DU, from Hindu, who मेरा junior था, इब्तिदा में भी था. He's written 2 or 3 songs of Sochana Tha at that time. And then, but after that, and through that, Irshad has also written. Everything Irshad has written. So, अब ये हो गया, we stuck, and then I always felt that I'm getting some value from him beyond my expectations. Or it's like when I'm talking to him and when I'm getting something from him, it's taking my story forward. That point of time, I'm not only thinking about the song, but I'm thinking about the entire film. Like he's saying something that is actually make कहीं से कहीं को भी आओ बेवजह चले. So I feel that helps my film Rockstar in some way. It's not only that it makes the song well. That's the reason why I think that I've stuck to him. And I think he has stuck to me because I can be that shameless to him when talking to him. To say that, Irshad, this is not your level. Don't argue.
एक दूसरे के
सीधा बोल सकते हैं.
मीटर और मीटर है ना, you're each other's measuring
yardstick, right? So ये हमेशा रहा है. तो उसको बोलता है इम्तियाज भाई आपको ये पसंद आ गया. ऐसे अच्छा है यार, मतलब ठीक है, ऐसा ज़रूरी है कि मतलब पहली बार में भी कभी कभी अच्छा आ जाता है. So I think we are good for each other in that way. However, it's not as though we've made a like an agreement that हम लाइफ लॉन्ग साथ में काम करेंगे. ऐसा बिल्कुल किसी के साथ भी नहीं होना चाहिए. And I feel that there's a lot of freshness that has gotten added to my life because my cinematographers have always changed after 2 films or 1 film.
That's something I've seen you do.
So उसमें क्या होता है ना कि you as a director, the closest relationship on set one has is with the cinematographer, apart from actor. So with the cinematographer, अगर वो कैमरामैन एक तरह से काम करता है तो फिर आपको उसका दूसरा बैलेंसिंग काम करना पड़ता है. यू हैव टू कॉम्पनसेट एंड कॉम्प्लीमेंट ईच अदर. यू लर्न न्यू थिंग्स वर्किंग विद न्यू कैमरामैन. देयरफॉर कुछ लोग ऐसे होते हैं जो बहुत लाइक दे आर ओरिएंटेड टुवर्ड्स द composition of the image. That's how they work, and then within that they work. So you take that, but the rest of the things then you bring in from your side. Like then I get to do that. And sometimes they are not so much about the framing, which then I can get into, so on and so forth.
But in the early days, if I remember correctly, you didn't even look through the frame.
I did, even now I don't
look at the film.
I don't
right?
look at the film.
And I think in your first film, there's a fabulous story of you just coming and saying 2 सेंटीमीटर इधर उधर कर दो जिससे कि लगे कि मैंने कुछ करा है. ये सच है.
That was in television. हाँ.
अच्छा, टीवी के टाइम पे.
हाँ, टीवी के टाइम में मैं बिल्कुल मतलब वही वाला कर रहा होता था यार, ड्रामा डायरेक्टर होने की एक्टिंग, क्योंकि मुझे कुछ नहीं मालूम था कैमरा क्या होता है. And I was so insecure that I had to learn also very quickly that कर क्या रहा है यार अशोक बैल जो कैमरा मैन है, यहाँ क्यों रख रहा है. फिर मैंने बोला कि अच्छा अब उधर से तो फिर वो इधर क्यों रख रहा है कैमरा, उधर क्यों नहीं रख रहा. ये लाइन क्या होता है यार, ये इमेजिनरी लाइन, ये लाइन क्रॉस हो जाएगी, मतलब कौन सी लाइन. I can't see any line. So then you realize that, oh shit, okay, now line. So now because of that insecurity I used to also try to learn very fast. फिर कल को ट्रॉली आ जाएगी, फिर अब ये क्या बला है, इससे क्या होने वाला है, फिर क्रेन आ जाएगा,
जिप लग गया, क्रेन आ गया अबे यार, oh god.
So then ये फिर then when I started working on film, then the whole lensing was so different, that mounted lenses, and then I said, why do they have mounted like block lenses of 75 and 50 when both can be covered in a zoom lens, and then you figure out why. Like I'm a big fan of block lenses, but then you realize that everything will keep changing and everything can be learned, but basically you're here to tell a story, and that is what your job is as a director. And of course the story comes through in a costume and in a camera angle and in everything, but there'll always be professionals who will know that job better than you. But वो फिर भी आपको बताना है कि भाई कहानी ऐसे है ना, तो ऐसे कर दो. So yeah, I was like frauded my way through so much.
I think you said that तब भी कहानियां सुना रहे थे ना, when you were 9 years, class 9 में भी Telltale.
Yeah, correct.
अभी जो अपनी कहानियां बन रही है वैसा हो रहा है.
Getting
रहमान on board, right?
यार क्या हुआ कि मैं ना रॉकस्टार बना रहा था before जब we met.
Oh.
And रॉकस्टार में ना उस वक्त, I don't know whether you'll believe this.
Of course I will.
John Abraham was supposed to act.
Okay, no. Yeah.
John Abraham was supposed to act, and अब वो नहीं हुआ तो नहीं बोल सकते कुछ भी.
And the character's name was Steely Dan. Murder हो जाएगा.
But then that didn't happen. However, when we were making it like that, so he said music. So I thought they said, what about A.R. Rahman, because this is the kind of film, and
they said is
UTV at that point of time was supposed to produce it. So
Ashti Vinayak was there, right? Ashti
Vinayak came later. Much later.
Okay.
So then they said, तो उस वक्त UTV was supposed to produce it, and they said, they were talking to Rahman about something. They were doing Rang De Basanti. That's how I got this approach. So the guy who was doing Rang De Basanti must have spoken to Rahman, sir, this is a director and he wants to, can I bring him across? He wants to narrate a story and all, and you see. So वो बोलते यार ये रहमान मतलब वो पता नहीं क्या बोलता है, कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है, is he committing, non-committing, if you go meet him and see whatever. And I started telling Rahman, when I met him, he's like, hey yaar Rahman, he's the only guy that after meeting him and spending time with him, you become a bigger fan of.
Wow.
He's the only guy that I've met like that. So anyhow, but it still started off by being A.R. Rahman. You got to meet the guy, and he's sitting over there, and so he said, what's your film about? I said, it's about a guy and blah blah blah, and ye hota hai. And he said, okay, what happens? So then I started, okay, the film begins, Somehow, quite instinctively, I stopped the narration. After like a minute, I stopped that story, and then I just came back to a certain
point.
A line by Baba Farid Shah. This is Kaga Saptan Khaiyo. I said, sir, in the beginning there's dark screen, and then this voice comes saying, Kaga Saptan Khaiyo, Chun Chun Khaiyo Mas, Do Naina Mat Khaiyo, Mohe Piya Milan Ki Aas. That man doesn't understand Hindi. Urdu to आप भूल ही जाओ. और ये तो मैं क्या बोल रहा था पता नहीं. But the sound of this, कागा सप्तन खाइयो चुन चुन खाइयो मास, दो नैना मत खाइयो मोहे पिया मिलन की आस. He said, what does this mean? I said, sir, the dead body is telling the birds that will come and eat the body that you can eat my body, you can eat every morsel of my flesh, but don't eat my eyes. I'm still waiting for my lover. He said, okay. And I knew this man will do my film now.
Oh, man.
Okay, Rahman doing your film, Roshan, I mean, you can imagine.
Oh, भैया. Oh.
तो अब now वो उसको मैंने बोला, it is just the rhythm of his body. I thought ये बंदा in है. And then he started making the music. The film didn't get made that time.
And he was making the music.
He made the music, and we did some sessions. No charge, no nothing, no, never. Big guys never talk about money. Those guys never talk about money. Hardly anybody that I've admired in this work has spoken about money. Did the work and all of that. Us waqt nahi bana. And then he kept asking me each time I called him for, sir, I'm making this movie called Jab We Met, will you do it? Something vague. And then, hey, what about that Rockstar film? Yeah, okay. Then again, I'm making Love Aajkal. I'm calling him, sir, I'm making this film called Love Aajkal. I'm okay, I'll call. What about that Rockstar film? Then after that I said, sir, I'm making Rockstar now. Okay, where are you now? Let's meet.
Oh my God, what stories. It's absolutely incredible. Guys, I know even I don't want to take a pause, but we've got some more time with Imtiaz. We're going to come back very, very quickly. आप तब तक जाके like, share, subscribe कर लीजिए या stumble.community पर subscribe कर लीजिए on Instagram, because these are the kind of stumbles that you can be a part of. Thank you for listening to Stumble. Why don't you join our tribe of community builders, creators, and culture shapers? If you find this interesting, all you need to do is go and subscribe to stumble.community on Instagram. मन तो मैं सच में कर रहा था कि गाने से शुरू करूँ इस समय, लेकिन I'll refrain because I'm still in that mood of what you were just telling me about the Rahman story and Rockstar. Rockstar, when it happened, I must tell you, I'm sitting and watching the film and I felt you either overheard or you were reliving parts of what we all used to do in hostel, because so much of that just kept reminding me of seems so familiar. This seems so familiar. Was there a lot of, kya tha that story? Is it born out of Hindu, out of college?
See, many thoughts have come from Hindu.
Correct.
And because those were very formative years. And also we share the same, it's called echo chamber now, but I feel that it's very true. हमने एक ही सारी कहानी सुनी है, हमारा हेरिटेज एक है, तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें जो मेरी फिल्मों में होती हैं आपको लगता होगा यार ये तो मैं कह रहा था, हो सकता आपने कहा भी हो. Because we've all heard the same stories. Yeah.
Because that band on stage, everybody, all of those moments.
Yeah,
that
Jovian
party.
Saints, you remember? I even called it Jovian Saints. So you might have just triggered off from there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these are some things which when you see in a film, it's this. But to me, it seems to be the beginning. Anurag Kashyap ने एक बार जो था वो मुझे किसी के थ्रू ये पता लगा कि उन्होंने कहा कि अगर ये डायरेक्टर नहीं होता तब तक ये सूफी मलंग बन गया होता आपके बारे में, right? And somehow I feel that if one looks at love in your films, जो कहते हैं ना कि there are those levels of Sufi love that exist, अलग अलग किस्म की बात होती है. Rockstar seems to be that exploration. Were you exploring, personally I'm asking you, that internally, were you stumbling across this whole part of प्यार क्या है, इश्क क्या है, what is true love? Was that something happening in your life? Was it biographical at some level?
Something was happening in my life. However, it was not close to anything that happened in the film.
True.
And there was a certain attachment of passion that manifested in the film. It was not a direct correlation or a direct story that I can say, but I felt a certain sense of connection to the work, and because of that, the whole unit felt that connection with each other, and it became a certain experience for all of us. I've done many films, and many people in the Rockstar unit have done many other films also. However, the kind of connect that this unit had with each other, there was something going on in the film for us. I mean, I'm not even talking about the film and what it might portray, but backstage, this was going on with us. Like, there were times when there was some great connection. I don't know how it happened. There was a time when in a rap party, 50 of us or 100 of us in a room, all like dancing and drinking and having fun, one by one started weeping inconsolably and started crying so much, breaking down. And in one group, like if I hug you, she hugs you, and all of us, it's become more, like 150 people or 100 people standing together crying for the entire duration of Phir Se Ud Chala song playing over there. That song playing over there, it broke our hearts. And now we are standing and crying, all of us. And we didn't even like have the courage to talk about this for years and years later, that ये क्या हुआ था यार. तो उसका mystery अभी भी किसी को समझ में नहीं आएगा. I feel that somewhere in, I don't know whether it reflects in the film honestly, but there was a big experience that everyone in the unit had while in the making of that film. As far as my personal life is concerned, it's never been, I think it's only in like while till college, etc., or when in the initial years of when I was working, I was trying to discover who I am. After that, this topic has not been of any consequence or interest to me. Who I am, what is God, what is Sufism. I have not tried to go out there and read it, honestly. And I have lost interest in any self-exploration, honestly. बिकॉज वो सब हो गया यार, वो कॉलेज तक में ख़त्म हो चुका था मेरा. मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि अभी ना और भी ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ें हैं खुद से. एंड इट्स नॉट tangible, it's not something that I can say directly that it is this, but then experiences reached out. And then you flow with it, and then you did do your work and you get by. I don't know, there is no way that I can actually straight say, but I took the chances. एक दो चीज़ें मैं सोचता था हमेशा कि let me do things that I have not done before in whatever way, although some people might believe I've made the same film again and again, but to my mind I was like, अब तो अगर मैंने जब भी मेट बना ली है ना, तो फिर उसके बाद I did not want to make Cocktail, because I felt my experience will be the same or similar. So then I wanted to make this slightly more risky film at that time, Love Aajkal, and then slightly more risky film from that time, Rockstar, and then differently risky film called Highway, because उसमें फिर कोई ऐसे star cast वगैरह नहीं था. So where I started off saying what was happening during, was I trying to find out what love is, etc. No, I was not trying to find out what love is, honestly, but maybe I got glimpses of something.
No, I get it. So see, what I'm trying to explore is, because for everyone who's sitting on this side, they believe that there is an imtiaz pre-tamasha and then there is an imtiaz post-tamasha. What is it? I mean, because I'm not a person to be able to take such a big, call and say, oh, you were this before or whatever. But is it that we have a certain number of stories we want to tell, which once told, we are now then saying, okay, maybe let's how are all these stories? I mean, you know what I'm
yeah.
So tell me.
Yeah. So what I don't, when I see the lives and careers of other film directors and storytellers, each one has a pattern which can only be discovered and understood in retrospect. Okay, there are like lean patches also that almost everyone has, especially the more successful ones would always have that. I think I'm also a case like that. And what my entire career is going to be only visible at the end of it, etc. However, what happened after Tamasha was that I think people was taking me very seriously. And I thought that there was this whole thing of, अरे तुझे नहीं समझ आई तमाशा because तू उतना अक्लमंद नहीं है and all of that. And I thought that, man, like my movie is being discussed in a club where I would not find admittance. So ये Intel वाला थोड़ा ज़्यादा हो रहा है, and I don't mean to be like that. So let me make a film which is not intellectual at all, or there's no concept of. Let me make a ordinary film. Let me make just. So then that started, and I and every film that you make, you are attached to. But the reason for making at that point of time, जब Harry Met Sejal, was to make a completely जिसमें ना कोई दिमाग नहीं लगाओ. मतलब ये पिक्चर भी बना सकता है इम्तियाज़ अली, वही वाला जिसने तमाशा बनाई थी. तो I felt it will be a new thing. I could have made it better. I could have made anything better. But yeah, it was like, ये नहीं समझ आई पिक्चर.
and you know, when you make a Love Aajkal 2, right? There's this thing of saying suddenly ke many people turned and said, why would you want to make a Love Aajkal 2?
Because it's a great story, yeah. I think that see, the thing is that अगर वो फिल्म नहीं चलती है तो उसमें हर चीज खराब लगती है.
नहीं, मेरा मतलब ये है कि उसका नाम कुछ और रख सकते थे ना?
उसका नाम कुछ और भी रख सकते थे.
Do you think this is more मतलब तुमने सोचा था कि Love Aajkal 2 है, ये मार्केटिंग वाले ने कहा कि सर इसका
नहीं, मैंने एक्चुअली वो Love Aajkal 2 ही हो सकता था. Like the concept came like that, but if we hadn't called it Love Aajkal 2 and something else, then they'd say that पिक्चर उसने वही बना दी है. उसको नाम कुछ और रख दिया इसने. So that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that there is something very nice in that world where, like, the fractured way in which young people live. It did not express itself, but I think this whole thing of, like, you might sleep with somebody in a relationship, but like after that you might still feel that I didn't touch her, or I didn't touch him, I didn't get it. I didn't get the value of this interaction, from this person. You know, that's possible. For us, it was not possible during those days because we never thought of that. Our procedure was something else. Over here, you can have a night with somebody, and then you felt that, you know what, I want her now, or want him now. You know, so that is how it had started in my mind. That it is so different from that time. So, Love Aajkal.
Right.
And trying to make a story like that. So, but yeah, you've got to also sometimes, you know, when you make these slightly, these subjects, they're quite risky, yaar. You know, there is no backup. Like, if you fall to the ground.
Right.
But then there's no other way to make movies, I feel.
No, and you know, the courage that it requires to make a film every time. Do you think it requires a certain amount of courage, a certain amount of foolhardiness?
Foolhardiness.
Foolhardiness?
It requires foolhardiness to make a film, for sure.
करते
हैं यार, देखा जाएगा. अच्छा, दूसरी बात है कि कुछ पता तो किसी को होता नहीं. आप जितनी भी कहानी बता दीजिए, आपके दिमाग में क्या कोई समझ पूरी तरह से पाता नहीं है. वो बोलता है, उसको भी जाना होता है, हाँ जी बहुत अच्छी है बोल के चला जाता है. बट या आप उसको बनाते हो because you feel that it's all there in front of your eyes.
Right.
You can see it clearly. You wonder why the other person can't. But yeah, it's foolhardiness. And actually, it's like because you're just irresponsible, you will make a film. Because this is the most unsafe way of spending money. It's the most expensive art form. You know, if like, why don't I just write a novel and khatam kare apni khujli? But you make a movie because it's a greater madness, and you feel that, you know, it's like once, like, people who are in battle don't feel easy at home anymore. Right. Is what happens once you start directing and making a movie, as you know.
No, absolutely.
And so, yeah, foolhardiness.
No, in fact, but even foolhardiness, when a Don Quixote is going down with Sancho Panza and he believes that is not a windmill but a giant who is going to slay, right? There is a certain amount of conviction as well, right?
Yeah.
Does every story require that conviction, or is it something along the way? Because again, you know, Tarantino said that when I'm on set, he says, you could be shitting bricks before you come out of your trailer. But when I come out, let no one say anything because I am the Pope whose altar you worship at. Right? क्या चाहिए होता है? वो जो गूदा चाहिए होता है, या वो है, या सेट पर, can you afford on the set to be, I don't know, let serendipity happen, देखा जाएगा, try करते हैं.
You must try for it.
Yeah,
you must try for it. But this obviously doesn't come easy. Because right in the beginning we discussed about why I was frauding my way through is because I could not admit that I didn't know. And then I had to prove to everybody that I am worth it, and मुझे लगता था कि वो निकाल देंगे मुझे निकाल देंगे. But so I have to prove to everyone that I know my shit. right? And my policy was always that if I'm confused, that is inside my brain, but the person comes and asks me a question कि सर ये रेड वाली शर्ट लूँ या ग्रीन वाली शर्ट लूँ, and I'll say green. क्यों? मैं दुनिया भर का जस्टिफिकेशन दूंगा. वो तो मैं इंग्लिश लिटरेचर का स्टूडेंट हूँ, काम ही यही है अपना, तो हम कुछ भी बोल करके जस्टिफाई कर देंगे. बट द पॉइंट इज दैट ग्रीन है तो ग्रीन है, इसमें कोई कन्फ्यूजन नहीं है, वो ग्रीन ही होगा और वही शूट होगा. बिकॉज आई डेंट हैव द करेज टू और द कॉन्फिडेंस टू से एक्चुअली ये मुझे नहीं समझ में आ रहा है कि ग्रीन है कि रेड है. आप दोनों को रख दो साइड में, जब टाइम आएगा ना तो मैं शर्ट दे दूंगा, दोनों को सेट पे रहने दो थोड़ी देर. टुडे आई माइट डू इट बिकॉज टुडे आई एम फीलिंग दैट एक्चुअली आंसर द क्वेश्चन प्रॉपरली. पहले एक्टर बोलता था कि सर आपने लिखा है कि आप कह रहे हो कि मैं बैठ करके ये लाइन बोल रही हूँ, मुझे ना खड़े होकर के बोलने का मन कर रहा है. ये नेचुरल ऑर्गेनिक आ रहा है. फिर मैं उसको 5 मिनट समझाता था कि क्यों उसको बैठ के बोलना चाहिए. रीज़न ये था कि मेरा ब्लॉक ऐसे लगा, मुझे नहीं पता इतना कि अब वो खड़ा हो जाएगा तो साला शॉट कौन सा लगेगा, ये आई कुडंट अफोर्ड इट, उतना समझ नहीं था. तो फिर नाउ आई डोंट केयर, ऐसे तू कैसे भी बोल, unless but I must see the fact that you're saying it from your heart and all of that. So I feel that serendipity जो आप कह रहे हो ना, कि अगर आप छोड़ सकते हो सेट पे, let's see, if you get out of the way, you are the best director. If you just get out of the way, I feel that मैं कुछ नहीं बोल रहा, क्या हो रहा है, क्या एनर्जीज किधर जा रही हैं, बट वो थोड़ा सा नज कर दिया, बाहर खड़े हुए वो हो रहा है, वो बहुत बड़ी चीज़ हो जाती है कभी कभी उसके अंदर. बट उसके लिए गुदा चाहिए होता है.
बिल्कुल.
हाँ, अगर आपने प्रेपरेशन किया हुआ, आपने एग्जैक्टली वैसे का वैसा कर दिया, यू क्लोज ऑल द विंडोज, यू क्लोज ऑल द डोर्स, देयर इज नो इंस्पिरेशन कमिंग फ्रॉम एनीवेयर, नो लाइट इन द रूम एक्सेप्ट फॉर द लाइट दैट आई नो आई एम गोइंग टू पुट ऑन. Like, and you're not needed to be there then.
Right.
You might as well tell people and just sleep at home, because वो तो हो ही जाएगा क्योंकि planned है. वहाँ पर तो आपको कुछ नया ही करना चाहिए ना, when all the doors are open. So, but for that you need Guda.
नहीं, और did Highway happen like that it developed from what I read? Some of it happened along the way.
So I had this story for the longest time. Again, this was one of the films that I was going to make before Jab We Met. Like I wrote it after, like in fact I wrote it even before Socha Na Tha. However,
that entire story arc you knew then.
Yeah. I'd made a show called again Rockstar Highway for Z Rishte.
मैंने बनाया था रिश्ते में, सबने
बनाया था ना.
हाँ, सबने बनाया ना. वो एक घंटे का स्पेशल मिलता था बनाने का.
करेक्ट.
Which never used to happen on TV. My God.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that was a thrill. So मैंने रिश्ते में ये बनाया था हाईवे, बट वो एक आधे में ख़त्म कर देनी पड़ी थी कहानी. एंड देन वो मुझे लगा कि यार मैंने ना इस कहानी को साथ जस्टिस नहीं की. इट वांटेड टू से मोर, आई हैड टू फिनिश इट फॉर ड्यूरेशन. वो 1 घंटे में भी कुछ, वो 40 मिनट ही कुछ होता था, बिकॉज बाकी 4 ब्रेक्स और एड्स और ये सब होता था. सो या So I'd already made that, but then I later finished that story thinking that ये story मैं कभी हो सकेगा तो बनाऊंगा. Later on, after Rockstar, I was thinking of making this, but I had written many versions of this over the years. Big film with a very like a big actor, with a big production. वो भी मैंने सोचा था that I'll make a highway like that. I had thought of it in many forms, and then finally one day Anil Mehta, the cinematographer, and I, we were chatting, and we were like, now that we've made a few films and there is some success that has happened, now there are a lot of gadgets I see on my own shoots. And I feel that there are so many people doing so many things. Is all of that required really? And like, is there so much cushion around me that I have lost the edge of making a film? Will I now, like a new guy from FTII, be able to make a film with just a camera on sticks? And 2 people, no light. And 2 people, you have a story, if you are a director, you'd be able to make it. क्या मैं अब वो कर सकता हूँ? या मैं अब वो पुराना वाला डायरेक्टर हो गया हूँ जिसको ना बजट ही इतना होता है, उसमें कितना मसाला डाल ही देते हैं पिक्चर के अंदर कि वो तो ठीक ही हो जाता है ना फिर. सो कैन आई कम्पीट विद द न्यू गाय दैट्स कमिंग इज द थॉट दैट लेड मी टू मेक हाईवे. Because literally there was no light in that film except for 2 or 3 sequences which
indoor at the end,
जो इंडोर था, एंड में था. और एक पंजाब में भी एक सीक्वेंस था जिसमें मुझे लाइट चाहिए थी, तो वहाँ पर्टिकुलरली लाइट आई. देयर वाज नो, एंड वो भी 2-3 लाइटें आई थी. There was no light, there was no trolley, there was nothing. There was camera on sticks and there was me.
Wow.
And this time, I also did not write the dialogue or the script. It was just like a one-liner that they go... It was just like 20 pages or 25 pages of basic stuff. The scenes were not written. So so I used to write I reach somewhere, then I write the scene and then we shoot the scene, that kind of thing. Sometimes there is no scene written. So I'm taking Alia to the hill, and one of the challenges was to get there in that film. No? Because I said, if you have heavy equipment, you can't get to the best places in the country. Yeah?
Absolutely.
So I didn't know how to get. So I thought, I'll take the camera. Anil, you take the camera, take the actors. Literally, we lugged sometimes the actors over there. Wo chad jata tha, Randeep and Alia, and they used to go there and, sir, bolna kya hai? Sir, I don't know right now, Alia. Let's get there. When we are there, no, by that time you'll know. Huh? Don't worry. Okay. So, ऐसे करके हमने बहुत सारे scenes किए, sir. But so it was, and finally that film stitched together and people liked it. जान बच गई.
Loved it.
बिकॉज उसमें क्या था कि वो बोले कि ये क्या बकवास है यार, ये तो कुछ कनेक्ट ही नहीं कर रहा है. ऐसा भी हो सकता था. सो इट वॉज अ रिस्क ऑफ दैट सॉर्ट, बट आई थिंक देयर वाज सम मेरिट इन द वे द एक्टर्स एक्सप्रेस्ड दोज सीन्स, and so it kind of stitched together and held together.
You know, all the actors who worked with you, it's almost like this Imtiaz Ali school, that once they've been with you in a film, wherever, and I've heard this in so many conversations, there's this thing of, yaar, once you've worked with him, na, there's actor khul gaya.
वो नहीं sir, I think what happens, Roshan, is that you can't take this to this doesn't make it easy in the way that you've got to open up, like whether it is in my film or whatever. Like I think because Ranbir, because Kareena or whoever, they did it, they took that effort and that pain of actual performance, of actually just opening up and being vulnerable. They did, like Ranbir did that, Deepika did that, so that's how it came through. And
but you've got to give them that space, right?
Sure, but because it's to my advantage, of course. Like it's to my advantage that Ranbir performs like that, so then I'll give him that space, why not? But the fact that he did perform like that set him free from a lot of things, and whatever, it might have helped him in his life as an actor. But yeah, I'm very also obliged to these actors that it happened. However, this cannot just be taken like, अच्छा मैं अभी स्कूल में आ गया तो मैं अच्छा ही कुछ रिजल्ट करने वाला हूँ. You've got to do it. I've got to do it too.
Right.
With in everything. I need. So I feel that a couple of things I've realized, that the honesty with which you do that work at that point of time, and the honesty with which, more than anything, I feel that आजकल तो मुझे लगता है, Roshan, to be able to surrender is the biggest art, यार. मुझे लगता है, can I surrender to this scene, to this actor? And so that it's not as though it stops me कि अब मुझे कुछ करना नहीं है या अपनी बात नहीं रखनी, नहीं, मैं truth से surrender कर रहा हूँ. And then I trust to go with the flow. So I feel that is the beginning of any great work. It's like the heart is open and you have surrendered. Like how बोलते हैं ना, वो जो सूफी दरगाह में जाते हैं या वहाँ के जो खादिम होते हैं, because without that surrender nothing happens.
You're in the flow.
You're in the flow then. You're in the flow. Otherwise...
There's this amazing book. I'm actually going to send you that.
Yeah, please do.
You will absolutely love it. It's called Stolen Focus. I mean, and I'm obsessing over the book right now. And this chapter that I was reading this morning was about flow. And it said that, there was this American scientist who said that everything is programmatic if you do this input. So he actually started by putting a pigeon in a cage and saying that every time the pigeon made a strange gesture, like say twisted its neck, he would feed it. So after a while, it would just keep doing this because it realized that that's what gets it fed. So, and he talked about this whole thing of behaviorism and response. As opposed to that, there is a man who in the Second World War, talked about flow, because he realized that he was, locked up more often than not when the planes were bombing, and he would keep coming up with scenarios and things and ideas in his head. और वो ये चीज़ें करता रहता था, और वो करते करते उसने एक पॉइंट पर रियलाइज करा कि वो एक मेडिटेटिव स्टेट में हो जाता था. एंड हिज ब्रदर हु ड्यूरिंग द वॉर वाज एक्चुअली टेकन टू अ गुलैग in Russia. But when he was released from there, he became obsessed with crystals because crystals reminded him of his childhood and things. और वो कहता है कि his brother was 80 when he met him because he इतने टाइम के बाद रिलीज हुआ था. And he stood next to his brother and his brother said, "Can you see this crystal?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "I was looking at this crystal in the morning and seeing the light reflect at it. And it just kept changing color and shape. And then when I looked away from the crystal because the light changed, I realized it was 7 p.m. So he says कि उस state में I was just so at one with something. You know, जो तुम कह रहे थे surrendering to the truth, finding that flow. When we talk about meditative states or whatever, this is a book I'm going to. If you guys want to get it, please do get it. We take a very short break, and I know that this was meant to be the last segment. I'm going to come back for a very short little bit with Imtiaz. Please stay right there. Thank you for listening to Stumble. Why don't you join our tribe of community builders, creators, and culture shapers? If you find this interesting, all you need to do is go and subscribe to stumble.community on Instagram. We're still with Imtiaz, and genuinely can I say that this is a conversation that I have been meaning to have for the longest time. आप कभी कभार जिंदगी में पैरेलल ट्रैक्स चलते हैं, दोनों एक दूसरे की पटरी से देख के ट्रेन से दूसरे को देख रहे होते हैं, बहुत खुश होते हैं, लेकिन वो गुफ्तगू नहीं हो पाती, वो बात नहीं हो पाती, which we are being able to do today. So I'm really, really grateful to you. Thank you once again for being here.
No, sir. Thank you. निगाह करम आपका, नवाजिश. You have always been very kind to me, and you continue to be so.
You know, when I look at you with this बाल हर बार जब मैं देखता हूँ, तो ये अनुराग की बदौलत है ना?
क्या बाल? हाँ, है ना? Because उसने मुझे ना
ब्लैक फ्राइडे में बोला था,
ब्लैकमेल भी किया था
ब्लैकमेल भी किया था
कि आपको ब्लैक फ्राइडे में ये वाला रोल करना है यार, ऐसे वैसा. आई डोंट नो. एनीवे, आई वाज इन्वॉल्व विद ब्लैक फ्राइडे का पहला सीन सर मैंने लिखा है, बाय द वे. तो anyway, I was very involved. We were we stayed in the same building for 10 years, and then even before that we were staying in the same building for many years. तो उसमें क्या हुआ था कि ही सेड ये रोल है, आपको करना ही पड़ेगा, क्या है, मैं तो जान दे सकता हूँ, आप रोल क्यों नहीं कर सकते, इस तरह की बातें. मतलब सेंस ही नहीं, मतलब. तो झक मार के मैंने बोला एक अपीयरेंस है, आपको आना है, वैसे बोल देना है, वो आके ऐसे कर देगी, आपको खाली बोल देना है. तो आई वेंट, एंड देन आफ्टर दैट बोला कि एक रोल, एक सीन और है, वो हम दिल्ली में शूट करेंगे, अभी नहीं कर रहे, अभी आप बाल मत कटाना, क्योंकि उस वक्त ना माई हेयर हैपन टू बी इन द शॉर्ट वन लॉन्ग. वैसे ठीक है, मैं नहीं कटाऊंगा, क्यों दिल्ली जाके शूट करेंगे. उसमें 4-5 महीने लग गए. फिर 4-5 महीने तक, जब आपके बाल छोटे होते हैं तो 5 महीने तक बाल नहीं कटाना बहुत बड़ा हो जाता है. सो पीपल बोला अरे बाल कटाओ. फिर नहीं यार, वो अनुराग के चक्कर में नहीं कर रहा, कटाना है. So that's how it started. And then by the time the shoot got over, people were so disgusted by it that they were starting to pay money for it. So people used to say, I'll give you 5,000 rupees, yaar, katwa le. And then I said, let this bid go higher. Let the property price increase. But uske baad phir then I just never cut.
You remember in class 10 there was that story about the man having to cut his mustache. ICSE में हम लोग की थी ना वो short stories में.
अच्छा.
Oh my God, I'm
क्या
trying to
होता
remember. अरे वो एक लखनऊ के पुराने नवाब टाइप के होते हैं, और वो जाते हैं और देखते हैं कि जो बार्बर है उसने उन जैसी मूछ रख दी, तो कहते हैं ऐसी मूछ कैसी रख सकते हो, राइट. एंड आई रिमेंबर द नेम ऑफ द स्टोरी. इट वाज ब्रिलियंट बिकॉज ही फाइनली सेल्स हिज एंटायर प्रॉपर्टी टू द गाय कि मूछ तुम नहीं रख सकते ये. तो वहां पर जो प्राइस
की लड़ाई
था, तो आपको यहाँ पर ब्लैकमेल करके फाइनली व्हाट वाज द लास्ट बिड?
सो आई डोंट इवन रिमेंबर. आई थिंक इट वाज एट दैट टाइम रीचिंग सम 15, 20, 25 तक जा रहा था, हजारों में, कि आपको मैं ये पैसे दे रहा हूँ, कटा लो. एंड रैंडम पीपल, आई थिंक माई एक्टर्स मदर, यू नो, पीपल लाइक दैट वर द बिडर्स, कि बाल कटा लो, बहुत खराब लग रहा है.
But it's looks so good on you, yeah.
Yeah, but maybe at that time it was new and people didn't understand why I was doing this. It was looking very weird, maybe.
अच्छा, एक चीज जो मुझे दिखती है when I look at your Instagram, you know, in the early days or whatever, travel seems to be so important to you. I sometimes feel that you make movies to travel. ये सच है कि नहीं?
Yeah. This is a vicious cycle का उल्टा क्या होता है?
this is your wishful
wishful cycle.
Wishful side.
There is some term for this that I think you
there must be. हाँ, इसका क्या होगा?
There is a term, isn't it, guys? Like
शांतनु, think.
vicious cycle का कुछ होता है, उल्टा, reverse. So it's that cycle. I travel for work, then I work for traveling and that kind of thing. It just keeps on and on like that. Because I think you can embed in a place when you're working there. Like when you go to shoot in a certain place, then you meet the people. You're not looking at monuments. You actually have a reason to be there and interact, and and that gives you an understanding of that place. So you want to go and shoot there again. And because you have traveled from place to place, there are more stories. I think stories have something to do with traveling for me anyway. I think
the train, the
train, yeah.
Window pane,
Window Seat Films is the production house, and that's because I feel that sitting on the window seat, looking out, imagining, daydreaming. That I guess how stories began in my mind. Of over there in that hut, that guy who I just see. Is going out to meet so and so. Just imagine the rest, and that's how you pass your time. 36 घंटे के train travel में करोगे क्या आप? You must have noticed this when you're coming. You were 6 hours away from Delhi, or 8 hours in those days. I was 36 hours or 32 hours away from Delhi. So it was, I guess, and travel maybe it's not really to see the place or etc. I feel the freshness of just being out of your world into a new place where people don't know you that well, so you can also be fresh to yourself because you're not playing your habit. I feel that was a greater thrill for me for travel. I think also slightly extraordinary things can happen in the lives of ordinary people during travel, and that can be showcased very well in a film. For instance, you can meet a person who is not a regular part of your life. So a girl on the train, that kind of thing. By being realistic and believable, while still being both of these, you could still have this incident in a film. When films started becoming a bit more believable and realistic is when people like Anurag, me, Tishu and all of us came. And at this point of time, you still had to show something more interesting than life, but to be a part of believable life. So then travel, I think, also hit home better in that way. Because you could always miss a train and it'll, your life just becomes extraordinary.
Right. No, it's unique, and I think I wanted to ask you about some of these things which you stumbled across, because when I see Corsica and Prague and all of these places, फिर मैं कश्मीर देखता हूँ, and कश्मीर साहब का कुछ अलग इश्क है मुझे लगता है.
जी हाँ, अभी मैं था वहाँ 2 दिन पहले.
Correct? जी. हाँ, मैंने देखा तक के तस्वीरें जब दिखती हैं. Punjab, you've explored so much, both with highway as well with Chamkila. There are parts and parcels of this. What are some things you've stumbled across? I know that some of the voices that we hear, you found along the way. Some of the scenes and the settings, obviously. पर क्या कुछ नई चीजें जो what you stumbled across, कुछ नया खाने का, सुनने का, देखने का?
Well, Kashmir gave me a lot of things. So Kashmir, I went there for a personal visit, and then I saw the place and I realized if I could bring this into a movie, because shootings weren't happening there that time. So this friend used to take me to this place and that place, Khavar. And then I thought, yaar, ye kisi bhi tarah isko film mein kar lete hain. So a lot of things over there happened like that, that finally found their way into the film. All the things that I like are the ones that find, for instance, I don't know, I know what you are asking me. I'm trying to think of examples to make it a bit more pointed.
कोई चीज़ जो वहाँ से या कुछ ऐसे कुछ जायका, कोई चीज़, कोई खुशबू, कोई चीज़. मैं जब पहली बार कश्मीर गया था, मैंने वो कच्चे अखरोट की चटनी खाई थी. मैंने हमेशा अखरोट खाया था, पक्का हुआ अखरोट खाया था. कच्चा अखरोट तो थॉट ही नहीं हो सकता था. बट टू हैव दैट, एंड यू वोंट बिलीव, अभी मैं बात कर रहा हूँ उसके, I can still feel that taste.
The zaika, yeah.
You know, ऐसी चीजें.
In Kashmir,
and it could be anywhere. Sorry, I'm butting in, but I'm saying because when I see Prague through your lens, so when I see Corsica and all of those things as well, या even दिल्ली जब दिखता है, तो मुझे जगह का जायका आने लगता है. That's it. So I'm not even framing this too well.
हाँ, नहीं, आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हो. What, for instance, when I went to Kashmir, I stumbled across the way they make their meats. हाँ.
वाजे लगे हैं पूरे पीछे.
By God, like वो जो कारवां आता है और वो जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स होते हैं सर, जिससे वो अलग अलग तरह से उसी गोश्त को पीसते हैं, कूटते हैं, काटते हैं. ट्रीट करते हैं इन दैट परफेक्ट वे, ऑल मैनुअल, ऑल on the same day, all fresh food being prepared. That is an industry, and that is a super specialization. And I've stumbled in Kashmir across the concept of chefs being the biggest rock stars in society.
Absolutely.
Like, how cool is that? It is the most sophisticated culture, to my knowledge, in this country, which is the Kashmiri Waza culture for food, man. Like, those guys. So I think this is something for even vegetarian people to go see and admire about how exquisite the cuisine of Kashmir is. You know, you've heard no ends about the beauty of Kashmir, sure, but everything about their cultural heritage, their wood carving, everything is so sophisticated and exquisite here, Roshan. It's like unbelievable quality that those people have been bringing out in so many ways. And I feel that much as we talk about Kashmir, there is still that much more to discover.
Bilkul.
You, I'm sure, know it much better than me, and but there is so much in Kashmir. And also, you know, like I said about Rahman sir, I feel that आप जितनी भी तारीफ करके भेजो ना किसी बंदे को कश्मीर, वो वापसी में ना और उससे ज़्यादा ही इम्प्रेस्ड होके आने वाला है. नो, एक होता है ना कि अगर आप फिल्म देखने जा रहे हो तो बहुत ज़्यादा तारीफ सुन के जाओगे तो शायद वो फिल्म उतनी अच्छी ना लगे. बट कश्मीर इज़ नॉट दैट फिल्म. कश्मीर इज़ अ फिल्म दैट, सो आई फील कश्मीर इज़ अ रियली एक्सक्विजिट प्लेस एंड one must go there. What I find great about Delhi, what I can, there's a certain roughness to it, you know. There's a little like, आप जब चल के जा रहे होते हो कहीं से भी, वो जो पराठे बताते हैं, उसकी अचार की जो खुशबू होती है, there's a like when you cross it, you know,
you can't miss it.
You can't miss it. आप कहीं से भी गुजरो.
Everything about Delhi is a little more sharp.
Sharp.
है ना?
Tongue is sharp. People's attitude is sharp. They don't mean to disrespect you, but they will talk like that. Your own tone becomes sharp when you're there. When you go back to your hometown, I'm sure in Lucknow people must have said that, क्यों इतना aggressive क्यों हो रहा है यार? अग्रेसिव हो रहा हूँ? नहीं, मैं तो नॉर्मली बात कर रहा हूँ. नहीं, तू हो रहा है. इसलिए क्योंकि आप जब दिल्ली में रहते हो ना, तो आप ऐसी बात करते हो कि ऑटो रिक्शे वाले से कि कितना हुआ, 20 रुपये हुआ, रिक्शे का किराया पूछ रहा हूँ, तुम्हारी ऑटो रिक्शा की कीमत नहीं पूछ रहा. Why? We talk like this in Delhi.
Yeah.
You know, even in college we used to be so like aggro.
My funniest, I can't tell you because I often tell people this, that हम बस में जा रहे हैं चाणक्य पूरी फिल्म देखने के लिए, चाणक्य में, which was our thing to do, right? हम लोग वहाँ जा रहे हैं and suddenly खाली बस है, कंडक्टर है, मैं हूँ, and 2 boys get off next to चाणक्य बिना टिकट के, and वो जाता है, हाँ जी टिकट, स्टूडेंट हैं, उतार दिया. उतारने के बाद कहता है, ये साले देखो इनको लगता है ना हर शहर बिहार है. क्यों? कहते यहाँ पर भी तो प्रॉब्लम है ना, मयूर बिहार. I mean, you know, I looked at this guy and I'm like, look at this man, his sense of humor. But that was him. It was Delhi. और मेरे को तो बैठ गया, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think Delhi meets you with a lot of roughness, but there's a lot of value, quality, and a lot of friendship and camaraderie in Delhi.
नहीं, वो सारी चीजें मैं
see beyond that roughness.
Really, I think that there's so much which is there. Do you stumble across music, books, etc.? What have you been reading, listening to, seeing recently?
I'm reading, and I've been interested for a while. So one thing is that I stop reading, or I stop reading much when I'm writing, or you know, while making a movie. Somehow वो हो नहीं पाता. Even though I have time, I can't really pick up a book and read for long. So I've been reading about the Himalayas a lot for the last 1 year. While even in Punjab, the only thing that I ever read was about the Himalayas, about folklore, also about Mount Kailash and the folklore there and the stories related to that, the churning and all of that. So the Himalayas is something that I've been reading a lot about. And उसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती हैं. The thing is that I also feel lucky that from time to time the right literature reaches me somehow.
बिल्कुल
ऐसे ही होता है. मुझे तो ऐसे ही लगता है कि जैसे रूमी है, you know, I'm supposed to be the master of, but I'm not at all. And I was not much aware of my mamu used to say about Rumi and about various other Persian poets, Hafiz and all that. But I was not that aware of Rumi. But I used to start getting quotes as messages, etc. during that time. And then I realized that, yeah, what I'm trying to say now, this man has already said it. So let me try to use this quote somehow. And there are so many things in Rockstar that came from Rumi's things. So I'm supposed to be like a scholar on Rumi, which I am not. But he has reached me rather than me reaching him. So, yeah, so answering your question, sometimes I just go on this tangent because I feel that I get the chance to speak
please.
But yeah, Himalayas. And there is so much value in so many things that
कोई कहानी जो वहाँ से सुनी which is in your head right now?
Yeah. So there was, I read this account, like travel stories, बहुत पुराना. It's about this lady, the first European lady ever to get into Lhasa, which was the forbidden city. Right. So she's trying to go over there. And she is she has an adopted son who is a Tibetan boy. Now these two are making the journey. And she's written the account. And the things that are happening on this journey to go hiding, being a woman, being white in that land, into Lhasa to discover it because of reasons, spirituality. And so a few things I just remember top of mind that I'd like to say. One of them is that she noticed some movements in the thicket, in the bushes while they were sleeping. So she sent that her son, her adopted son type, to go and see, or she went, whatever. She's also like 60 plus or something. She's not a young lady. And then कुछ नहीं है, छोटा सा आग सा जला हुआ था जो बुझ जाने वाला था. So she's sleeping. She opens her eyes. A leopard is like sniffing at her face. She opens her eyes and she looks at it. And he's also looking at her. And from here. And she says the thought that came to her mind is that many years back she was in West Bengal and she had a direct and a close encounter with a tiger. So she's thinking, I've met your elder brother, bro. Don't worry. Go, beta. Go and play in the forest. Don't worry. She's mentally telling him. And she kept her calm, and the leopard went away.
Oh.
Episodes like this, And wow. And of course, I'm not doing a great job of narrating it, but she really takes you there. She really takes you through to that experience, because she's not trying to make it, spectacular or anything. It's just like what came to her mind at that point of time, and how she was when that leopard was looking at her like this. And she knew that if she panics or anything, this guy will just by accident kuch kar dega. So that is one. And the other one was that when they were very hungry, because there was no food or there was no water, so they reached somewhere, and you've heard about these mountain travelers who start imagining things that actually don't exist, that ye sone ki ka shahar hai and all that. She started to see those things, and both she and this other man, they saw this Sone ki Nagri and all that, and they're discussing. And over a period of time, she realized that, beta, this doesn't really exist. It's just coming to our brains that these things are there because there is some sort of something which a hallucination gets created. So she's trying to rationalize it so that she can survive and not go bonkers because of her hunger, cold, or all of those things that led them. But the funny thing is that they hallucinated the same things. They were like imagining the same things.
My God.
So, yeah, some very interesting episodes of people just in random travel.
Right.
And these are not big writers or anything. They just wrote their accounts. So I love reading all of that because it gives you a sense of being to places that you aspire to go.
They say na, books are portals to worlds you've never been.
Yeah.
Right? And वही है, फिल्मों में वो होता है, कहानी में होता है. My last bit is just about the fact of saying, आजकल ये बहुत डिबेट चलता है, छोटी स्क्रीन बड़ी स्क्रीन, राइट? द स्क्रीन ऑफ इंटिमेसी, द स्क्रीन ऑफ स्पेक्टिकल। यहाँ पर तो सिर्फ बॉस अब RRR चलेगा, यहाँ तो सिर्फ जो है वो बड़ा, you'll have to justify a reason to go to the cinema, but this is a screen of intimate emotions or whatever. How do you react? Because you're creating stuff for both now, right? You're creating stuff for the web, I saw you did a short film also during the pandemic. You done that short film, remember the one on the prostitute? There was that,
yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
वो एक छोटी सी फिल्म थी, पर बहुत खूबसूरत फिल्म थी। And it was I said,
girl was
very अलग। फिर ये आपके शोज जो बनाने लगे अभी आपके हैं, शी आ रहा है वगैरह, that's going on. What do you do? Is there a decision making process between the screens?
I feel that we are all lucky as filmmakers to be in this time, because every story now can find the correct medium.
Okay.
Earlier the case was not that. Earlier anything that I made would only be for film, and if it is not suited for film, for instance, She is a story that I thought at that point of time, but it was so episodic in nature, and it was not really about the plot but just about the condition of this girl, right? So then I never could make it because it was not really suited. Now that there is the digital shows can be made, it got made. And so I feel that we are lucky, and we should choose the medium that, so you don't have to force fit a certain duration onto a story, for instance.
Correct.
You can just make something for half an hour and put it in the requisite medium. And there is the sense of, I'm the big director, so can I come on this medium or that medium? I feel that I think people around the world have had enough success being in different media, so that is not how a filmmaker should think about. But the other thing is that you should also let the medium find the material that you're making. Like, I might want to make a movie which I'm thinking that it can be an intimate watch, but somebody might come and say that, boss, it's big, make it for the big screen because this is a good experience. I think also, Roshan, you and I have seen these rules changing so much now.
Absolutely.
When video came or when television came, I'm sure that people in the film industry reacted and thought that things will define themselves in a certain way. They did, but then they only made, for filmmakers or for media people, have more choices. So I feel that this is a great time for filmmakers, and you should actually be honest and try to make the film for the format that is suitable for that film or for that story. Right. That's what I'm trying to do.
No, it's fantastic, and you're doing so much of that. Chamkila, do you want to tell us something about it?
Chamkila is what I loved about Chamkila is the fact that it took me to a very small place in Punjab and just left me there, and we were there, and you realize how cynical one becomes, because those people were so honest, disarming, and they were so without a motive, and they were saying things and being so sweet. I was thinking, my initial thought was that, why are they being like this? What are they hiding? What is the agenda behind their smile? It's like, then I realized there's no agenda. They're just like this. It's all right. So that simplicity from which you and I come from, we have to remind ourselves of that time and again. And so I think being in Punjab, shooting Chamkila, for me has been the process of earthing, really.
Oh, beautiful.
It's like I touched the ground, I touched dharti. And I wanted to make that film perhaps for that same reason, that I want to go to the bloody dharti, yaar, and go back over there and feel that, and then let the film happen in that way. It's a film, I've never made a film like this before. This is a biopic. I've not gone ahead and written things from the top of my head. I've been as honest as possible, as truthful as possible. Everything that is represented. I'm one of those people that know most about Chamkila anyway by now, because he's not a subject of clear research at Harvard, So, I've been truthful. So it's just been a very fresh experience for me.
How lovely.
The unit was fresh. The fact that I was actually looking at the material and trying to make the scene rather than creating the material was a very fresh approach. It's not a movie I've made before. And when people are watching it also, like Rahman says, it's a new this is not the kind of film you've made before. I said, is that a good thing? He said, no. Is it in a good way or a bad way? Not a film I've made before. It's like, then I thought that maybe the fact that I have not made a film like this before is a good thing.
It's a great thing
for a director.
No, it's
so I'm very happy about this experience. I hope that people love the film, of course, and but it was such a fresh experience for me, and it rejuvenated me, and it also gave me this thing that come to the set, make films every year, man. Like, don't wait for so many years. Like, I'm the guy that wants to direct films. Clear. Like, I'm the guy that wants to be on set and direct films. And I'll try to create that as often as possible in my life.
Inshallah. I hope that totally comes true. I have one wish from you, which is the fact of saying, would you ever go back to doing anything on theatre?
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, I'd give anything to go back to theatre.
It would be, the world hasn't seen the best of Imtiaz. I have. I've seen a very different dimension, which is why I feel that, you know.
Yeah, I would love to.
इतने बड़े stars करते हैं जब मैं जाता हूँ देखता हूँ कि Al Pacino is doing a play. Yeah. I mean, Hollywood stars go back for grounding, for
the same experience.
Exactly for that. And when I did it last year, and I can't tell you, it was genuinely like it. Everybody says, so what did you get? I said it was going back to school.
Yeah,
it was 3 months of going back to school, and I learned just so much. You know, and it's given me amazing friends and amazing learning as it was. Stumble Imtiaz is actually going to be a festival. It's like Spoken, which you've been to.
Yes.
And you've been there and you've been on stage and introduced Mohammad Muneem. You know, it was one of our core memories from the festival.
How
Stumble
fun that was.
is a festival that we are planning, which is our Creative Curiosity Festival. It's a festival for creators to inspire them. It's meant to happen on a beach. It's meant to be that thing of saying मैंने इससे बड़ा देखा है. I hope वहाँ पर जाके ऐसा उल्टा होगा कि यार मैंने देखा है लेकिन ऐसा शायद नहीं देखा. Because it's I mean I describe it in so many different ways to people, saying it's South by Southwest meets Burning Man. You know, it's Coachella with a taste of, you know, discussions on creativity. तो हम ये कुछ करने वाले हैं. ये फितूर है और यही इसी तरफ जाने वाले हैं. I'm going to give you these Ganjifa cards. So Virken, who's worked with us on this festival, she's made all these cards. Orissa में, you know, Ganjifa cards होते थे जिससे लोग खेलते थे.
अच्छा.
They look ताश जो थे लेकिन सर्कुलर टाइप के होते थे.
Okay.
तो हमने इस पे अपना कुछ क्रिएटिव सा रोशाक टेस्ट बना दिया है. कुछ नहीं है. 1 or 2 that speak to you and why do you identify with them is what I want you to end with. And of course, we're going to love to have you at Stumble. So I want you have to be there. And at the end, you'll just have to tell everybody why you're coming.
Okay, these 4.
अरे superb. 4 कहानियां, मजा आ गया भाई.
तो इसमें क्या करना क्या?
You just have to show it to the camera and say, you know, this I like because it reminds me of, or you know.
Reminds me of, or what I like this about this.
Anything. Okay. For what reason?
I like this a lot because when you move this, turn it around, it's like the perspective is changing. You know, it's like this guy, like this for instance might be quite in level. This is like he is a bit like looking up. Is he arrogant? Is he apologetic? You know, things like that. I feel that's interesting. This I like because like it takes you a while to see what is written over there. But before that, you start seeing various patterns and various designs which are not even meant for you to know. So I think this is a very good card. This one I like because the artist has done a great job, I feel. It's like if those lips have to be, if that leaf has to be the lips, then what is the person thinking, and therefore how the eyebrows have to be to encapsulate the personality of that person. So I think the leaf is a given, but the art after that, the light and the color of this card, I think, is a great creative choice. And again, this, because I feel that it is the most simple way of putting something across which can have 2 or 3 different interpretations, you know. So I feel this is also very interesting. So these 4 cards are interesting for me.
वाह, तो इसी टाइप की इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें हम लोग करने वाले हैं. Why would you like to be at a festival like Stumble?
Because I feel that I would like to be in Stumble because I feel that you can go to this place without an agenda. And I feel that anything can be achieved in terms of business only when you don't have an agenda. So that's why I'm going to be there.
Fantastic. Thank you, Imtiaz, for doing this. Really, सिर्फ for the excuse of meeting you, I think I'm going to make this a 6-monthly thing.
Please.
So Stumble Part 2 हो रहा है, उसमें हम कुछ और करेंगे. But
please do that.
What
please
a joy.
do that.
What a joy. Thank you. Thank you.
No, thanks for letting drifters like me come into your studio and your space. And a real pleasure, real joy, a real discovery each time I meet you, Roshan.
Thank you.
And all the best to you. You've done such wonderful work. I've been kind of like feeding off your research work, poaching people from your company and all of that. But keep up the good work. I think the work that you're doing is also a big inspiration and an outlet for young people. So may your tribe increase.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you liked watching this podcast, then don't forget to share it, subscribe it, and like it, so that you can then stumble across many more such conversations.